Unmute. Are we unmuted? We
Yeah.
are. Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's September 8th, Select Board meeting, Plainfield, Vermont. We have a change to the agenda, which is an appointment, which I think we'll do after public comment. And was there anything else? I don't know of any other changes.
Did you add a new business? That you're gonna add as well?
That's what he just said.
I just said I'm going to appoint, yeah, the appointment. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. Announcements, Dan?
Yeah, two announcements. One, and I think people are finally getting in from the waiting room. We've had some issues with people doing nasty images and other things on our Zoom account, so we've had to increase the security on our Zoom account. So there's a waiting room now to get into the meeting. Everyone needs to have their first and last name clearly identified and put their camera on, at least for the start of the meeting, so that we can see that there's a real person there that lives in the community and not somebody who's going to do something that will cost us hours of editing and already cost us getting booted off of YouTube once because we accidentally uploaded some of the porn bombing that happened to us. So yeah, folks just need to have their first and last names and be on video at least for a few minutes. That would be appreciated. My second announcement is just a real appreciation for the rec committee and everyone who put on Old Home Days this last weekend. It feels great. Jamie Spector and Ryan Gillard and whoever, there's so many people that helped put it on, and also the folks that were, you know, the pastor was popping popcorn and people were vending, and someone made t-shirts, which I'm wearing one of right now. And it was a really great day despite the really heavy rain at times.
Yep. Yeah, we had quite a good turnout, I thought, for all the rain. Any other announcements?
Yes, next week there are two special meetings. One on Monday night, which is focused on emergency management, particularly what our planning is for the future. But also quickly recapping how everybody got together for recovery and for the immediate 2-month response period immediately afterwards, and how we really learned as a community. And we're going to talk about that in order to lay the groundwork for whatever happens next to us. So it's Monday night at 6, I believe. Is that true, Francis? At 6?
The 15th at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay.
Here.
And it's here in the town hall. And the second special meeting is a hazard mitigation meeting where the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission is leading the next step of that, which is for the community to plan together how we prepare our hazard mitigation plan, which is one of the real key factors in whether we get federal funding or not, when it's available. So that particular meeting on the 18th, Thursday night, the 18th, starts at 7 p.m. And that's led by Keith Coven, Central Vermont Community Planning.
Also here.
Also here, yeah, sorry, yeah, and there will be, hopefully you can arrange a Zoom for both.
Okay, thanks. Any other announcements? Public comment. I'm sorry?
Will we have a chance to speak during the items?
We will make sure we do.
And all comments, please, we're going to ask you to step up to the microphone so folks on Zoom can actually hear what each of you wants to say. Thank you.
Our little owl here collects some sound, but people on Zoom don't hear it very well. Okay. So we want to have a change to the agenda, which is appointment, which Michael, do you want to speak on this? Is Denise Wheeler?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to do it now.
Okay, great.
You gotta go to the microphone.
Yes, you're right.
Do we want to list all the changes? Do we want to list all the changes to the agenda?
So I'm
Change the agenda.
And I have long attempted to fill a position which has most of its importance is around the time of a disaster. But as you know, if you've come into the Emergency Operations Center during the 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks after the disaster has happened, which was true in 2023 and 2024, there's a tremendous amount of activity. And I needed help in the Emergency Operations Center so I could go out into the community, which involved, going into people's houses, basements, whatever, and seeing what the actual impact of the disaster was on every family and household. So a person staying in the Emergency Operations Center would be called the Emergency Operations Coordinator. That is a federally recognized tier of emergency management at the town level. And so we have Denise Wheeler, who runs Twin Valley Senior Center, has volunteered to be our emergency management coordinator, which will mean I'll have her help. She also provided help last year in 2024, and was she and Laura Brill provided a lot of the backup and at the Emergency Operations Center, along with Dan Fingus and Joe. So
So we want to formalize this until next town meeting, this appointment?
actually, it is until next town meeting, and in which case she would seek reappointment.
Okay,
Thank you.
yes,
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Denise Bueller as Emergency Management Coordinator with a term ending town meeting day 2026, which is March 3rd.
I'd like to second that.
and we have a motion and second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Great.
Town clerk's report.
Brent Tobin, the town clerk. Couple of things, we're progressing on the ordinance, rewriting ordinances, so we can write tickets for problems. I think that this, it's not that we want to give tickets, but we really just want to sort of have a little more compliance with certain aspects of living and so forth that have there've been a lot of issues with people violating zoning rules, parking inappropriately and so forth. So having, we don't have any standing on a lot of these issues unless we write tickets. So that's the origin of that, and we're working on that. In the next couple of weeks, hopefully maybe next select board meeting or after that, we're looking at redoing the internet and the phone, which would also apply to the firehouse. We have the ability to get fiber optic, which is top tier internet, which would also help the fire department. But obviously, we'll only do this if it's prudent, and you can look at the numbers and see. I think that it will end up, if we look at the overall challenges of internet and telephone for all the different town organizations and so forth, this could lead to some significant savings. Once again, we have an election November 4th. It's a bond vote for the technical school. It's a whole number of towns. I think it's about 20 towns, but that election will be coming up on November 4th. Just giving everybody a heads up. We don't have the ballots yet. We'll be giving information for absentee ballots. Also like to welcome a new member of the road crew. Lance Toby joined us and is doing well. We are hoping Sean's situation is still indeterminate, so we're wishing him the best for recovery. There is, I think, if the constable gives his report, he might comment on this. We have a situation on Brook Road near the Fowler intersection. Some people camping, living in a house, acting inappropriately. There's been a lot of firearms going off and so forth. The authorities are aware of this, but don't try to take it on yourself to try to solve the problem or something. This is a kind of delicate situation, so I hope everybody uses caution. I am going to be taking off starting on Friday and next week, so I'm gonna be out, but, I'll probably be monitoring my email a bit if anybody needs me. And just a final note on, civility. We always, being in, public space, you always have people who act inappropriately, but those instances seem to be happening more often. And we've had a couple of things happen at the municipal building, and just a note to, we'll post a sign sort of reminding people that, I understand people get hot, a lot of difficult issues, people are facing tough times, we get it. But that doesn't mean you should act appropriately, so that's it. Really important.
Thank you.
I just want to know, the people that are appropriate at the house, is that their house or they squatted at it? Is it their house? With a fire?
Well,
comes out?
one of the people may be a relative. It's sort of a kind of changing group of people. And there is someone who has some tangential relationship to somebody who owns the house. I don't know if you'd call it full ownership. And I think the person who is the owner is not around a lot of the time. It's a very kind of strange situation.
Okay.
Thanks to you and Dan for keeping an eye on that. Okay. Do we have a constable report? I don't see Dan up there.
No, do I.
I mean, just from my email, I'm happy to read out, he gave us a written report.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Read, and then he can always add to it if he shows up late, and I'll just copy and paste these into the notes as well.
Sure.
There have been reports of speeding happening, I think Country Club Road and some other places. The Wayne County Sheriff's Office did a traffic enforcement patrol that resulted in 5 citations for speeding, which is great. The biggest thing that helps us and helps Dan is knowing the times of day and the kinds of vehicles. If we know that there's like a specific time of day when multiple cars are doing it, it's then worth the sheriff's time to come out and do it. If it's one car at 9 o'clock at night, they're probably not gonna send someone to come and try to get one car, but we have been able to find a pattern. He received a complaint against alleged animal cruelty at the home, and a home being not sanitary for a child. He checked out both parties. The dog is fine. It seems like it's relating to a custody dispute between 2 former partners, and it's not it wasn't a valid complaint. Dan will be creating a PSA on Facebook and Front Porch Forum on how folks can report things to him. And specifically, if folks don't want their name passed on to law enforcement, he'll have a way for folks to share with him things that he can keep confidential or pass it along, depending on what people feel comfortable with. And he just requests that, looking ahead to the parking ban enforcement this winter, he's hoping that we see a parking ordinance updated so that we can do civil tickets, so that we have some way to enforce our snow-related parking ban. And that was his report.
Yep. Thank you for reading on. Any questions from the board on? EAC report.
Grant administrator.
Nope, you missed one.
What did I
Grant
miss?
Administrator.
Grant administrator, Karen first.
Isn't it? I'm sorry, Karen. Grant administrator. Jeez, I jumped pretty fast. Yeah.
Karen Hatcher, Town Grants Administrator, providing an update. Okay. So on your agenda tonight, there is a resolution that the board needs to sign and authorize Dan Fingus to sign as the person who has administrate, I don't know what the official
Municipal
officer,
authorization.
thank you for
It's
the
not.
CDBG-DR grant that needs to be signed this evening. We can do that.
Karen, we don't have that on the agenda tonight. We have a copy of it, but is there any reason that can't wait until the public hearing? Because this just goes in with the grant application, correct?
Yes. Okay, that can wait.
I thought it was on.
I thought it was on the agenda also.
On the agenda.
The,
No,
Not?
Yeah, it. We must have gotten.
I mean, there was a link and a preview of the resolution,
Yeah, so
yes?
in the one that you got from Jamie or in,
It's
We-
on the,
we got a link, we saw the resolution,
okay,
but it's not on the agenda.
all right, if it's not on the agenda tonight, then we'll,
Well, the agenda I'm looking at says grants administrative report, motion to pass resolution.
Yeah, the PDF version it is,
oh,
but not
okay,
on the text of the email that had it.
okay.
all right. So what would you like to do about that?
I think
we,
I would like to wait.
it sounds like, it sounds like it was supposed to be on the agenda and it's not. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, when the agenda was sent out, the motion to pass wasn't in the copy for the email, but the PDF attachment has the motion to pass resolution as underneath grant administrator's report.
Is there a timeline on this that's critical? I know you have a lot of critical timelines.
You know, I think if we have it as part of the, we're okay. So there is a board meeting on the 22nd, right?
Yes,
So, okay, let's put it on that agenda.
Okay.
Let's do it then,
okay, thank you.
okay?
Yeah.
That's a
Sure.
checked.
Great, okay, good. So, an announcement about the public hearing for the CDBG grant, which we had set for the 22nd at 5:30. It is now the 25th at 6 p.m. And the reason for that is we needed to meet the 15-day window for print publication. And we have a little bit of a trickiness with the Times Argus not having daily publications done. So the first time we could get in, once we had it ready, was tomorrow. And
Yep.
so tomorrow, so we had to add a few days, and so the meeting is now the 25th.
And is that
In this room,
okay, great.
okay?
Yep.
That is also on the website, went out on Front Porch Forum tonight, and the public notice has been updated and is at the post office, the town hall, and on the town website, right? So.
Yep.
those are
The municipal building.
At the municipal
post
building.
office.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Okay.
And the paragraph on the website is being corrected. It still says
It says 5:30, but the webmaster is correcting it to 6
Correcting
o'clock.
it.
It is
To 6.
6:05.
And the notice is this.
And that is a Thursday, just so people
It is
know.
a Thursday.
Yep.
And I believe that EVEAC will, they maybe, Donnie may tell us that they're gonna ask to start their meeting a little bit early so that we don't run up against
Hmm,
their meeting, so,
okay,
okay. So the grant update at this point. Last time I was here to speak with you, the advice that we had been given from staff at the state was that including acquisition of the land in the grant application would not be something we should do unless if we wanted to be able to sell the lots and use the income generated from those for perhaps a revolving loan fund or some other purpose that the board would decide. Since that time, we have gotten other counsel and advice from leadership at the agency. And the advice is that we should include it. We should include acquisition in our grant application. Because the HUD guidance provides for it. And that Vermont should not be limiting its towns to eliminate that option. So our committee met. Pat Mold is here, our Central Vermont Recovery Officer, and she's been working closely with us on this. And the approach that the entire group felt was the right approach was to include it and see if it gets funded, if we get the grant for it, and what those conditions may or may not be at that point, and we could decide when we know what we would do, you know, whether we would accept those funds for acquisition if they had limitations, or we would not. And that would be something, once we knew how much and for what we would be funded, we could make that decision, right, before signing a grant agreement.
Am I understanding that there is negotiation that can happen after the grant is offered, if the grant is offered?
Yeah, there's a grant agreement that comes afterwards, so. And there may be conditions that come with the grant agreement, and so all of that. So first there's a decision, right, and then a determination. And then there's a whole process for what's in the grant agreement and what gets negotiated between the granting organization and the town.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So within the application at this point, what we're working on is acquisition of the East Village land, infrastructure for that property and that project, project management for the duration of the project. And we have added in, and we're not sure that this will float, so we're working this through, but we're looking at a match for a repair. We have a grant program with the emergency management program. We have a grant for 75% of the repair on Martin Meadow for an undercutting of the bank. That's pretty serious. It's $1 million project at least. And the town or property owner's match would be $250,000 about. So we're looking at how could we maybe include that in this application. We don't know if we can, but we're working through all of the pieces of that. So those are the elements, and we know that we're trying to work within a maximum ask of 10 million because we can. But we don't expect we'll get all of that, and we don't know what. It's very competitive. We're not sure, you know, who else is asking for what. We know there are a lot of projects. So that's where we are today. I mean, it's an intense process. It's every day, almost all day for all of us. And it's a big lift. So I'm updating you as I get the information, and Pat is here if you have any questions about any of that.
Dan?
Well, first, just wanna thank you, I thank you by email, but the grant explainer that you put out, really solid and really answers a lot of questions in a really comprehensive way, so I really appreciate that, and hopefully makes it a lot easier to understand what's going on for everybody else in the community. Just a clarifying question about the land acquisition, so the EDEAC had a meeting and you all discussed it, and that's where the $600,000 potential loan came from, and so under this new guidance, there is no 600, the potential loan. It's, the idea is we're putting that sum into this grant application, correct? As of right now.
As of right now.
Yeah.
This minute, unless some other decision gets made about that,
Yeah,
that's where we are.
and maybe this is an EDAC question and not a you question, but the only way the $600 million grant, excuse me,
That's a lot of money.
$600,000 loan would have been even in question is if we get the community development block grant. Some portion of the money, right? Like it was all tied together, that specific number.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
ties to-
it really depends on what we get.
Yeah.
Right, and that, because when we know that, then the EDEAC will go back to its group to
Yeah.
look at what are the options that they've been looking at, and they would present options. Like the grants group is working on the grant now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
Yeah.
But the EDEAC is charged with advising the board with what its options are once we know,
Great,
right? Okay.
thank you so much for your work.
Welcome.
Yeah, and thanks for that question. I have a question. The Martin Meadow inclusion in this grant application. So that's determined to help the grant. I mean, obviously.
It's determined to help the town or the property owners because somehow we have to come up with match.
Yeah.
If we are to do that work, and the property that's at risk is from the Friends Meeting House to the Plainfield Health Center along that bank, so it's significant,
It's,
right?
yeah,
It's potential loss of residents as well as a significant piece of what's important in our community. So we're looking at, we know that the property owners don't have $250,000 to match, and typically with this grant program, the property owners do that.
Mhm.
So we're looking at ways that we might be able to fund it. There might be other grant programs we can also look at, but this one's in front of us, so we're examining that.
And it is a disaster recovery.
It is a recovery, but it
Yeah.
is also not part of the EDAC project, right? So
Right.
that may be, that may be a problem, but it's a mitigation project, and so it's a different pot of money in the DR
Yep.
grant, right? So there's the housing, the infrastructure and hazard. That's why we're looking at it.
Thank you. Yeah, Peter.
So I participated in a meeting and a couple of rounds of emails on this, and there is a category in the CDBGDR on mitigation. And you can use those funds to match other federal funds, which is an option.
Yeah.
This is the first I'm hearing tonight that there's some question about including that. And I'm wondering, Barry City, for example, is putting in multiple applications as opposed to one.
Right.
Does it make any sense for us to separate that and do that as a separate application?
I thought about that, but and that's maybe Pat can answer that, but I thought we didn't put in a pre-application for that. So that was my only thought, because I did think maybe we should separate them out, but we haven't. We have called the agency today to discuss it. Liz Curry was calling today. So I'll have a chat with her tomorrow to see what we learned, but one of the possible complications is a NEPA review that needs to be done, perhaps. But the NRCS has their own NEPA review for their projects, and that would come later, so I don't think we'd need to have NEPA for this project, for this grant, but that's up to the agency to tell us.
Mhm.
Um,
Can you tell the audience what the NEPA,
it's,
The National Environmental Protection Act.
thank you.
thank you, so it
Thank
looks at environment, historic preservation, archaeological, et cetera, on the site.
Yep.
Right, Michael?
I wanted to make a technical observation that while this is a consequence of the floods last year, it's actually an ongoing and aggravating issue. The particular embankment we're talking about from the Friends Meeting House around by private properties. We surveyed with UVM students and also with George Springston, is actively being undercut because the river's course is banging right up at the bottom of that corner. So this is something that really will worsen if we don't address it, and the emergency watershed protection program is the way to do it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Right, any other questions?
Any other questions? Yep, got a couple. Michael?
It's Michael Burndown. Just a simple question. The full grant application is supposed to be released no less than 5 days before the meeting. Do you have to wait till this day? Can you release it sooner?
We are working on it, Michael. I don't know that we'll have it ready before then, honestly. It is the monster. So if you want the full application, you should wait.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My question is about the projects. Are there two different timelines for the project to be completed for the Mountain Meadows and village expansion, and who's gonna be watching over the second project for the timeframe?
So there aren't separate timelines. The CDBG-DR, well, this is a good question.
Thank you.
EWP has a process like that they go through. So, if we're only using DR for the match, that's a question we can find out. We should ask. I don't know the answer to that is the answer. And I do know that we have a 6-year window on DR to be able to complete the project. So,
Beginning to end.
yeah.
But that's not including this thing, who's gonna manage this?
It would be, so the management of it is something that's done through an agreement with the town. So
Right, so
we
we
would
hire
hire,
two separate projects going on?
there are gonna be a lot more than 2 projects in this town going on because we have all of the federal highway, we have all of the FEMA. So the reason we are including a project manager in this grant is because we understand that there's a lot of work being done and we need to shore up our town staff and we need to have professional project management capacity in the town. So that's why I'm trying to fund it. We're trying to fund it this way because we know we need it.
Great. Go ahead, Janice, and then we're gonna wanna keep going. Name, please.
Shanice, I really didn't know when to speak, too early, too late, I don't know. I don't know why we're doing this grant application without having a referendum of the town. I know that I think we all agree that we agreed on a further exploration of the project, an unspecified project, and that since that decision, the project has shown itself to be less feasible, not more, that it's gonna cost a lot more, it's gonna be on a lot less land. And I understand the idea that, oh, we can get a grant to pay for it, but just because it's a grant doesn't mean it's a good idea to use a lot of money, a huge amount of state money, which comes out of our taxes, to pay for a project that could be economically and ecologically disastrous for the town. And you say, well, we could decide not to sign it later, we could decide not to accept it later. I don't know where to stop the train that's running. But I have a basic point, which is not about the details of the project. Many people have expressed concerns about ecological and economic dangers, about density problems, about problems that could affect the town later, about how taking out a grant like this could be detrimental to further grants that we need. But the town's just going forward and going forward and going forward. And so my main point is basically, while all voices matter, I want to point out that citizens who have had serious concerns about the viability of this project include at least 3 former select board members, 2 former and 1 current Plainfield Planning Commission member, 1 former regional planning board member, a zoning administrator, 3 or 4 local experts in ecology, flood management, landslides, and other natural disasters, a Marshfield expert, an Act 250, and many others with relevant experience. For example, the following, who, by the way, live nowhere near the project as I do. David Scheckman, now Planning Commission member, was on the board of the Central Vermont Community Land Trust for 6 years before it became Down Street Housing, and on the initial building committee of Central Vermont Habitat for Humanity. He helped design and build the first 4 Habitat houses in Central Vermont. Julie Hackworth is an expert in environmental regulatory program management, planning, grants, administration, solid waste program management, and drinking water compliance professional. Michael Birnbaum is a former zoning administrator, co-founder and owner of New Alliance, board member of CV Fiber, Central Vermont, years of relevant experience in contracts, licensing, mediation, management, and fundraising. Tammy Farnham is a former select board member, worked at the Vermont State Employees Credit Union, now East Rise, for 32 years, has over 20 years of experience as a mortgage originator. Charlie Cogbill, historical ecologist researching land use history and forest dynamics, associate of Harvard Forest, a student of Vermont parliamentary procedure. Betsy Ziegler served on the select board, the planning commission, the regional planning commission, and the Plainfield Co-op board. Presently, Plainfield's representative to Central Vermont Solid Waste Management District, member of Plainfield Area Community Trust.
Janice,
I'm almost done.
please.
I'm almost done. We have not been listened to, and why? Like Lita and many other unnamed but concerned citizens, my expertise is in the less practical realm of the humanities, which also may be relevant. One short example. This morning I was studying Greek tragedy, and I couldn't help but think about the concept of hubris.
Hubris is sometimes translated as overweening pride, or to put it more positively, a blindness to dangers created by a passionate, single-minded focus. In many Greek tragedies, hubris makes people ignore repeated, reasoned warnings with disastrous consequences to themselves and their communities. Let us not let blind emotion keep us from paying heed to the reasonable concerns of the experts in our midst, and may the select board respect all of the varied and rich expertise of the citizens of Plainfield by giving them the chance to vote on this project before any further steps or any money is spent or pledged. I know you're not gonna listen to me, but that's how I feel. Thanks.
We're listening to you. Okay, just a sec, Dan?
Yeah, I will just, no, I was on, but I think we're gonna move to the EDAC report and then we'll have time for more comments about the EDAC, but it.
Have we done it?
Yeah, we're done, Karen.
You want to come to, I do
Okay.
want to respond, I just do want to respond to Janice, so I will say, we are listening, we do hear you, I know it doesn't always feel that way. I will say that I get just as many emails and in-person one-on-one conversations from people pushing for the project and telling it as I do not. It is the truth. I know Charlie's already shaking his head for some reason, but it's true. We could list the number of skilled, qualified people that are also in favor of the project. I think it's a very hard thing. Towns don't usually embark on these kinds of projects. It's a new idea. I will say, myself, I work in environmental nonprofit. I run an environmental nonprofit at my job. I am not voting for a project that it destroys the wetlands up there. There's a Agency of Natural Resource wetland permitting process that the project is gonna have to go through. If we can't get those permits, the project's not gonna happen. So there's actually a scientific review by the Agency of Natural Resource that will happen. So it won't just be my opinion or Janice's opinion or the unnamed expert's opinion, but it'll actually be the state's opinion. And so I would just say, we are trying something hard because something really hard has happened to this town. And a lot of people came together and said, we're gonna try this thing. It's a way for people to stay in town. It's a way for us to build housing. We have a housing crisis. We have people who can't afford to live in this town that want to live in this town. So we're trying something. If this doesn't work, it's not the only thing we're trying. We are doing a lot of different projects. We're gonna have Brook Road report. We're talking to the folks at Goddard. We know that everything we try won't work because that's not the way life works. And we can't just say, we're only gonna do this one kind of project. We won't do anything else. We'll put our blinders on because then if that falls through, then we're nowhere.
Just want to say, I wasn't questioning the amount of projects you were doing. I was questioning the timeline for each of the projects.
Yeah.
How can one town?
No, I was
manage a whole bunch of different projects going on at the same time, at the same time, in a town the size of Plainfield.
Yeah.
That was my question. It wasn't against projects happening to develop the town. It was against the timeline that we have to make sure that the grant is utilized,
Well,
paid back, or we pay it back.
And that's why the grant has to have project management in it. I mean, if they wanted to, if Pat and the state wanted to give us a big amount of money, but no project management money, either we get another grant for project management or it might not be feasible. Like, these are all things that are being thought of. These are all things that are deep conversation. We tried to put in a grant 6 months ago without a grant consultant. And we put a ton of time in it and mostly other people, but I was involved somewhat in making sure it got in. And then we had to pull it back because we didn't have the right information in it. So then we used a grant to get Liz Curry, who's a grant professional, to help us put this grant together. So we're learning, we need professionals from the outside to help us build these grants. We as a town can't do everything alone. Like, that's definitely a lesson that we've learned through this flood and definitely through this recovery process.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I am listening. I hear all of you. I was talking to some folks about how can we explain the process, the permits needed, water, wastewater, runoff, the wetlands. There's all these pieces there. Somebody knows, Rick Burrows being one of them, all these processes we're gonna have to go through. We just need to get it out in front of the public so they understand that we're not a runaway train. I mean, I think for us that are dealing with it a lot, it feels like we're a tugboat barely pulling. And I know for people on the outside, it feels like a runaway train. The reality is somewhere in between.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Did you have a question for Karen?
So in terms of the grant, I had asked Karen for the terms of the
the grant itself. When I was on the select board, pedestrian is a perfect example of
Yep.
the grant application gone bad. So I asked for the terms because I wanted to understand those terms. I was told that there was no terms at this time, just as she noted in this meeting, that those will be determined once the state knows once it's approved and they know that. I did call the state and tried to get that, as she indicated. I had a very lengthy conversation with the state. I was very surprised, of my conversation with them. And as she indicated, this is a HUD grant.
Mhm.
And so when she just explained the grant, it identified lots. The town is putting in lots, 40 lots is what the application indicates. Am I correct? The grant currently 40 lots.
And infrastructure.
And infrastructure. So infrastructure, just to clarify, is houses.
No.
Yeah,
It's water, wastewater and roads.
the grant is expecting houses to be there. So that's what we're asking for the grant for. But they're expecting houses to be there based on HUD standards.
Pat might be the person to answer that.
Yeah.
From the state.
Happy to.
That's your grant. That's what I got offline. Today, I did my search, research off your grant application and what it requires. But the state is identified, and my understanding is that you guys have been told that. The state has come in and explained to you those concerns, that when these houses go in, they have to be to HUD standards. And as soon as I heard that, that was totally different than the first meeting we had.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Sorry, Tammy Farnham.
Thank you.
Pat, I'd like Pat to respond, please.
Yeah, Pat.
Hi, my name is Pat Moulton, and I'm a regional recovery officer for the State Agency of Administration. I work with Doug Farnham. I understand there's a bunch of Farnhams around here. I'm not sure if you're related, but you're right. The expectation of the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery is that there are several categories: infrastructure and supportive housing, housing mitigation, administration, et cetera. And yes, the expectation is that houses will be built and occupied within 6 years of the grant performance period. So what the town of Plainfield is applying for is funding to build roads, water, sewer, stormwater, et cetera. And part of the application is a contract, hopefully, with Downstreet Housing and Community Development for them to build, I forgot the number of units, 5 units that will be principally occupied by persons of low to moderate income. They'll also the grant's general purpose is to help benefit persons of low to moderate income. So 70% benefit has to be achieved. So they're looking for 70% of the houses that would be occupied, if they're to be occupied by persons of low to moderate income. And I want to make clear, I'm not talking Section 8. Low to moderate income is 80% of typical median income in any county. And I think like for a 2-person household, it might be, or 3-person might be $80,000 a year. I forget the chart. It's not low, but it's certainly not upper income. So you're right, we do have to perform some housing, but the town doesn't necessarily have to be the one to build the house.
No, but we are responsible, if there's not houses on those lots, we are responsible.
You will be required to meet that performance measure, yes,
That's right.
as
So
a
you're-
community.
So
yes.
this, what,
So what happens when we?
so basically,
fine.
what we were presented, and I'm just getting up here because they said I need the mic.
Right.
Sorry, so basically what was presented to us at the meeting, and in your grant, it states that we had 2 town meetings. We didn't have town meetings because that committee was not appointed by the town at that point, just want to clarify. But nevertheless, we had 2 meetings. In those meetings, you could not identify, you couldn't answer half of our questions. I've asked, are we gonna have another meeting that you guys can answer questions for us?
Address them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question too. So are we going to have a meeting? Because that's misleading. The grant was specifically states that we had a town meeting. We did not have a town meeting. We had a committee that came to us and presented an idea. You guys are stating in a grant that we had 2 meetings. And you haven't explained this project. You haven't told us that we are required. It's not, because everything I keep hearing is 40 lots. We need to sell 40 lots. That's not it. If somebody buys a lot and does not put a house on there, Are we coming up with 205,000? Because based on this 8.2 million, that's what each lot is worth. So how are you, what's plan B? If we had 10 lots at the end of 6 years. And you guys presented tiny houses. Do you know what HUD standards are? Do any of you on the board know HUD standards? A
We-
tiny house has to go on a permanent, it has to go on proper foundation. That's 4-foot frost walls.
Mhm.
So did you, are you?
See, this is,
A frost wall, you can put it on.
Tammy, can I answer your question? One of the issues that all of us who are, by the way, all volunteers who don't really have a lot of experience with many things. One of the problems we have is we don't have the answers. Now, we could sit here and have meetings every week, but we won't have answers until engineering is done, or we have an idea of what the grant applications are gonna look like.
But you're spending money on something that we need to understand right off the bat.
We're not gonna spend any money until we have a vote, first of all, and a town vote, okay?
Is that what you're saying? So before we accept a grant, before we,
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying before if we can get a grant, then we'll have the vote. Because
spending money on something that wasn't proposed to the town. You did not propose to us 40 houses up on that lot built for us to go.
because we didn't know. We didn't know. Dan?
Tammy, you're a former select board member. How many, you mentioned a pedestrian grant, there's some other grants.
Yep.
Did you have townwide votes in getting those grants and using those grants at every
I
time?
don't know. I wasn't on the board. I was just I was on the board at the time that pedestrian bridge went south.
I'm gonna guess that, no, like, I think we as the
Well, it was
town,
money compared to this.
well, I understand that, but I'm just saying that we as a town have been getting grants for decades and spending grants for decades for emergency management, hazard mitigation, the roads,
Yeah.
like pedestrian things, all sorts of things. So the standard for getting grants, which is what we're doing right now, has always been in this town, that the select board is making those choices and they're the ones authorized to vote of them up or down. We have a town meeting day process where we do some policy things and stuff at town meeting day, but accepting grants and applying for grants has never been part of that. And so I am fine if we want to start to have a conversation about that. It'll obviously slow down the progress of many things we want to do in this town. But I think to act like us going for a grant and maybe even accepting a grant without a town vote is something of an aberration would be incorrect.
So that pedestrian bridge went south and we had to come up with 50,000. I'm not exactly sure. I should know right offhand because it was, like I said, it went south in many ways. But we had to come up with that money. Again, how can you say to the town that if we accept this grant, we're not going to ask for your approval, when in the end, if it goes south, we're the ones that are gonna pay.
I mean, that's why we
So
have a
what's-
representative democracy. People vote for us because we wouldn't be able to work. We wouldn't be able to work as a town if we, every time we tried to get a grant, we had to have a vote. We wouldn't be able.
Guys, here, what you're presenting isn't really what the grant is. It is a grant to build 40 houses. That is to complete houses. It's not, well, no, okay, it's not to build. It's not to build, to have standing. And the end of 6 years, you have to present 60 or 40 houses. If our grant is for 40 houses, those houses have to be complete and standing on those lots to have standards.
Pat, would you like to?
Just like Pat just said. So,
No, we're not, the grant is not to build 40 houses.
no, it's not to build,
It's to
but to
build.
promise that those are going to be there. That is a little different.
The number of houses that are specified in the grant will have to be built and occupied within 6 years, but there's not an expectation nor specification in the grant that will be 40 houses. It'll be 40 lots.
No, it is 40.
40 units.
40 units, right.
Let's talk about units.
Units, but we need multiple
It's
units. for-
units because we know that Habitat is gonna build duplexes,
Right.
5 lots, that's 10. Right, there are,
Right.
right,
Yes.
there are other folks that have been talking about doing duplexes or multi-units up on bigger lots. So you can get to 70% of, if the application says 40 units. And you have to get to 70%, that's 28 units, you already have 15 with 5 from Down Street and 10 from Habitat. You're already.
So my understanding is 70% of the project has to
70%.
be.
We don't have to skip it until-
Right, but that's not affordable housing, but that's not,
What's that?
if we say 40 units,
That's what
that's
Dan
40
said.
units.
It is 40 units.
That's 70% of the 40 units need to be for low income.
Right.
No, affordable, low and moderate.
There's two different things there. There's 40 units and then there's the 70%, which is the 28.
28.
But it's two different things. We don't need 28 complete. We need 28 to be
We need 40 units to complete in 6 years.
correct.
28 complete.
28.
40 is low. 48 low cost.
So the other, so two
Right.
HUD standards, so that's the other piece. So I think we need to identify HUD standards,
Right, so-
because when we're selling tiny houses or structure, yours is off the question. They so much.
I don't
So-
know. You're-
No, that was in our first meeting.
You know,
So what-
you hand it to Len and
Say.
Mo also has his hand up.
Consulting with us and working on this
Is there an
grant.
end?
The reason we get Pat Nolan
Okay,
is because.
I see you, Lauren.
We don't know, but they do. They do, and they're not gonna allow us to put a grant proposal together that isn't gonna meet the HUD standard, that is, and we are not.
But you're saying, how many of those 28 people know they need to be sold on
Yeah.
HUD
They're
standards?
still not, that's the way the
He's not.
DAC is gonna structure
What's
the
that?
program,
I'd like to
and
stop.
that's.
Yeah.
Do they, are there, is that committee, is the
They
full
are-
committee?
Can
aware?
we have the
Yes.
committee's report? Because I think some of these questions may get answered, and I'd like to move on if we can.
You have a.
Thank you.
Somebody.
Carl,
Don't, just move on.
Carl, quick point of information.
Okay.
Don't allow.
I just want to say, because it was reported that getting grants and having them go through is a townwide town meeting process. That's not true.
Yeah.
In this, and that, I mean, what I want to give as an example is that the Hazard Mitigation Committee worked for 6 years to get a grant together ultimately that paid $1.3 million to the town of Plainfield for a Brook Bridge. And the town was obligated to 10% of that. It was not in front of the town meeting. It was in front of the select board where that decision was finally made. The townspeople participated all along the way, but they didn't actually vote on it in town meeting. And that bridge would be there right now, or it started, if it were not for the fact that the brook changed the brook bed.
Okay. Donnie,
Donnie Austin for the East Village Extension Advisory Committee. Not sure how much I can add to this discussion. Be happy to try and answer as much as I can. I guess my report would say that, yes, we're keeping, the committee is keeping apprised of the grant. That is clearly the most important thing on our table. Karen has attended our meetings with regularity to report to us. The other things I'd say, not necessarily relating to the discussion we just had, is I would just like to point out incredibly successful home fair that we had on Old Home Days, organized by the committee, in particular Eli and Sandy Vitzium. There were over 30 exhibitors and over 200 people came. I stopped by towards about the middle to see what was going on. Folks told me that it was already thinned out and it was wall-to-wall people. The other thing, the last thing I want to say, and then I'm happy to try and answer questions, is I would ask the select board. But when I come here, I don't know what you're gonna ask me. And I don't know if I have the answers to what you're gonna ask me. If it was at all possible, if you had questions, to send us a question a day or two before, then I would have then I would lose my excuse for being unprepared. So I would very much appreciate that.
yeah,
Questions? Yeah, I'll be glad to try.
we have Mo up there, with a question. Maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a quick comment because I don't want to belabor the point. I just wanted to express gratitude for the folks who've been working on this project. I have worked in various forms of environmental permitting and been adjacent to a lot of grant work, and I know how difficult it is. So I just wanted to appreciate that. I think this is a great opportunity for the town. And I guess I would just encourage, kind of as was mentioned before, in these conversations to try to temper how we speak to each other and the assumptions we make about different people's perceived motivations or anything like that. I think we can still have a conversation about this without kind of accusing wrongdoing or ill intent from our elected officials, from our volunteers, our town employees, and also just our neighbors. So, and also it is very hard to hear on Zoom when folks are
Great.
talking over each other. Thank you.
Peter?
Donnie, in answer to your question, I sent you and Arian and Lauren an email approximately a week ago saying that citing the charge to the EVAC, which there's a list of things. Topmost are a budget and a timeline. And we don't have either yet. We have estimates, numbers are moving around depending on what's in the grant and not in the grant, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it would seem to me that we should have a checklist of the permits that are required and what the timeline is on them. And what the EVAC is asked by the select board to do is to give us advice on the actions that we need to take. Okay? And so, you know, you should apply for this. You should file for this permit. Here's the budget we're recommending, et cetera. That's what I'm looking for when we get reports from the EVAC. And I did call my next door neighbor, Rick Burrows, and we exchanged some emails about permit process, and I didn't get any specific answers yet on that. And that's what I would like to hear from EVAC. I would like to see a schedule of permits and timelines on that.
Okay, Peter, I will absolutely bring that up to the committee when we meet next. I appreciate that.
Do you have the temporary, not temporary, the preliminary schedule? No one's gonna hear you online. And identify yourself.
Heritage Boomery on the East Village Advisory Expansion Committee. A month ago, we published a preliminary calendar and schedule that's been circulated in our minutes and notes and on the town website. And my understanding is Rick Burrows relayed that information to you, Peter. So I don't understand, but it is on there right now. We can all check it. It's there.
I'm sorry, but I'll just add to that, Peter, but I did get a email from Rick Burrows today about your question specifically, and he and Lauren are working on that and hope to have that in the very near future. Sorry for having that
I
said.
see Lauren's hand.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lauren?
Yeah, it's not just me, it's the engineer, Paul Boisvert, who's a specialist in the permitting process. Peter, I know you asked for that, and I know Pat began to work on answers to your question. And I also know that Paul Boisvert, who's the engineer that we've hired, has begun to put together a letter about the permitting stuff. So we definitely plan to get that to you.
If I could make one last comment on the previous discussion, I'd just like to point out to folks that hearing and listening is not the same as agreeing with people.
Thank you, Danny.
Pat? Yes, please.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We have to get a more central microphone.
I just want to say, I'm working with a number of towns in central Vermont. There isn't a single town that's in better shape than Plainfield in terms of where they are in the grant. In fact, I would think Plainfield is a little further ahead than many towns. This is a very constricted time frame for the CDBG-DR. And for those of you who don't know the Community Development Block Grant, it's a couple, 3 times a year they do that. You get lots of time. Oh, we'll shoot for that meeting next time. DR, you got one shot. And the shot between pre-application and application is a month. So everybody's scrambling. But by the time the public hearing happens, many of these answers will be in hand because it will be what has to be submitted with the application. So, you know, I know, Karen, like I report to the governor on these grants, right? And well, today this is what Barry's doing. Today this is what but it was different last week. I mean, it's just the nature of these grants at this time, and given everything that people want to do. I would also say that your town is incredibly lucky to have the people who've been volunteering and working on this work. I mean, Karen Hatcher is allegedly retired. But I'm on the phone with her or email all day, every day. And Ariane and Michael and Carl and Francis Rose and Peter, I mean, everybody is working their tail off to make this happen for you. And it's an incredible opportunity to bring in lots of dollars. And I'm just gonna say it, because my father is yelling at me right now, saying, use the poem, use the poem. My dad wrote a poem years ago that basically says, who is they? Well, and I'm gonna get it wrong. Well, who is they? Is they or we are they. We are the ones who can build our town, or we are the ones who can let it down. We are the ones who can make it grow, or we are the ones who can let it go. Well, who is they that's gonna do all that? Well, they is we, and we is you. And so try to kind of keep that in mind as we're going along.
Thank you.
May I speak, Carl?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to this larger issue that we've all come to talk about clearly. The vote of the town meeting was a vote to see about it. Was a vote to explore the feasibility. The landscape's been shifting beneath our feet ever since. Hasn't stopped shifting. We are still seeing about it. Those who would call for a referendum, that vote has already been had to see about it. I ask that you place trust enough in us that if this project doesn't make sense when the facts are in, that we won't go ahead with it. The facts are not in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? David?
David Shepman, was hoping not to say anything tonight, but I have a few things. What I heard Tammy saying, which, and don't, if I say the wrong things. I think there is significant risk in this project. I think there's risk that houses won't get built on time. We hear 6 years, that sounds like an awful lot, but it's not really 6 years because presumably it's 6 years from the time the project starts. So so it's really maybe 5 years. It could be even less by the time people acquire lots, they get sold, etc. So. And I think there's agreement, between the people talking about this, that if the grant calls for 40 units or more, I've certainly heard that there might be 40 lots and more units than that, multiple, multifamily houses. If they're not built by, I've seen 2031, then the town is on the hook. So let me finish.
Excuse us, we are the board.
What?
Unless you are gonna provide the number that we are on the hook for, unless you're providing that data, which is new information, you are wasting our time with repeated information.
What Pat and Karen both just said.
What is the penalty?
Merits, let me finish what I'm saying, and you can say what you want to say. I'm hearing, and I believe, that there is significant risk in this project. We've already had an estimate that's gone from 2.5 million, never to exceed. It couldn't possibly be more than 2.5 million. Aggressively told to us and wanting to vote on it right then. To now 8 point something, I don't know, apples to apples, I understand that. I think what's important is for the people in the town to be able to vote, referendum, whatever you want to call it, on taking that significant risk. This is my belief. You can believe something different. There's also things get said all the time. Well, we haven't spent any money yet. Well, I'm really confused about that. Like, who's paid for the lawyers to negotiate the land deal? Who paid for the lawyers to talk about the bond the potential bond deal, $150,000 loan. You know, other incidental things, there's been, my understanding from the committee was that there's money spent that's out there and not paid, but I'm not certain about that. I've seen a schedule, like Arian said. What I looked at, as much as I could understand it, because it was a little bit obtuse to look at, it's already completely obsolete. So it's a tough one, and you know, I've tried to put myself out there to say, I don't want to argue the merits of the project. That's, you know, we can do that. But I do think that people have not had a chance to really weigh in, and that they should, and that the town, as best as possible, hopefully at the hearing, can be educated, will have enough information to establish what risk there really is and be upfront, honest, and forthright about it so that people understand that we're taking a risk. I've been involved in dozens and dozens of construction projects. They're almost always risks. So that's far.
Thank you. Mo, did you have your hand up again?
I did, thanks. I was wondering, since this feels like, at least as an observer, it feels like a new piece of information or potential information about what a potential penalty might be for not meeting a performance metric. I wonder if we could just request that at some time in the future, the EVAC could provide that information after consultation with HUD about, is there an extension process, as the vast majority of grants I've ever worked with have an extension project process for the grant, and what would be considered you know, like appropriate meeting of that performance metric on the grant. It feels like we're talking about things that at the moment there's no hard information on, and I guess I'd like to request that we table that until we have the information.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can request that. Thank you.
Move to Rose.
What's that?
Move to Rose Paul. Move to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've had the EVAC report. Thank you. Conservation Commission.
Pending approval. Rose Paul.
Rose
Yeah,
Paul?
hi,
Yeah.
I'm Rose Paul. I'm representing the Conservation Commission. And we would like to take two actions that involve committing some town money. And we need select board approval to spend those funds. Hopefully you've gotten the estimates for the work. So the simpler, smaller one is to have the trails on our town forest brush hogged. That hasn't been done for 3 years, I think. We received an estimate from Bellavance out of Barry for $570 to take the one pass through the town trails. But I'd like to request leeway to spend a little more if needed, because there may be downed trees that we would ask them to remove and, you know, use chainsaws. I don't think the people on the Conservation Commission use chainsaws. So to get that trail cleared so that they can then drag the brush hog behind a tractor. So if possible, I'd like to be able to spend up to $650, say, on this project. And it may not cost that much. And I also wanted you to know that we have the money in the town forest fund to cover this as of June of 2024. We had approximately $2,300 in the town forest fund, and that's where we take the money from. So that's one of the actions. And I don't know if you want to vote on these together or separate them.
Did you want to have a motion?
I just, one question. Rose, the 570 for brush hogging, if they have down trees, do you expect it to just go up a small amount, probably? Because
Yeah,
as a chair of the Conservation Committee, you're allowed to spend your approved budget up to $300 at a time without select board approval.
Yeah,
So if you think it's gonna be within under $300, we wouldn't have to take additional action.
that's fine. If you want to just authorize the 570,
Okay,
it'll probably fit within. That's a good point, Dan.
great. So then I'd like to make a motion to approve spending $570 for brush hogging the town trails to be paid to Bella Vance.
And it's from the Conservation Committee Fund. Second, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Then the
And your
second,
second?
second activity is that there are 4 ash trees in the village that the town originally planted as part of the whole street tree and sidewalk project. And those ash trees are dying. They're very, they're very far gone. And you probably know when ash these days, because of the emerald ash borer, ash trees get very brittle and they're a bit of a safety hazard the way they fall apart. So there are 2 ash trees at the town park, the Mill Street Town Park. And then there are 2 in front of houses on Main Street that were planted by the town as part of the street tree project. So we got 2 quotes to take the 4 ash trees down, to chip them, haul away brush, and the town garage asked, well, Josh Pitts on behalf of the town garage asked if we could get the logs cut to 16-inch length so they can be burned at the town garage. So that's what the estimates cover. We're recommending that we go with Alexander Tree Service. They're out of Cabot. Their estimate was $3,600. We got a similar estimate from Foxfire. It was a little bit more. So we think we should go with Alexander. They're well known to us, really reputable. And
Dan?
I'm sorry, I should say that the street tree fund as of June 2024 had $12,500 in it, and we would take the money for this out of the street tree fund.
Rose, you just said Alexander's a reputable company. I'm guessing Foxfire is as well. And Alexander's out of Cabot and Foxfire is out of Plainfield here, correct?
That's right.
East Montpelier.
They're East Montpelier. So Foxfire is also out of town. Okay.
Yeah, and they're both insured, I assume, Rose?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for them?
I'll make a motion that we spend $3,600 to take the Alexander quote to be spent out of the street tree fund.
Second.
Second? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you for the effort, Rose.
Thank you.
Will that be done this fall?
That's what we hope.
Question for Rose.
Question? Yeah.
Rose, slightly unrelated question. At a meeting I missed a couple of meetings ago, there was a conversation about other trees that need to be taken down. I think the number was 2,000 trees along the roadways that need to be taken down. I happen to be married to a member of the Conservation Commission, so I did ask her about this. Can you tell me if this is accurate, since you're the chair? Those 2,000 trees would be the total audit, right? There would be 2,000 trees audited, and not all of them would have to be taken down, and not all of them would be taken down in a short period of time. Is that correct?
I can't speak to the exact number, but a good 5 years ago or so, an inventory was done of the ash trees along the town's roadways. And I think we've brought that to your attention a few times to make sure the select board is aware of it and the road crew. I think I sort of overheard someone was sort of quoted as saying that the town has to take those down. There's no requirement that the town has to take those down. Some towns have developed an ash tree removal plan that prioritizes where and what trees they want to remove. Plainfield hasn't done that. So, it's up to the town how they want to handle it. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, thank you.
I assume, Rose, I have a question. This 2,000 number, which was an old number, I realize. Is that in the right of way of the road? Is that how they defined it? Do you know?
There was some distance, some specified distance from the center line of the road.
Okay,
Probably the right of way, or they might, I'm guessing now, they might have said if it's tall enough, could it fall in the road? Even if
yeah,
it's outside of the right of way.
that's what I was wondering. Yeah, okay. Any other questions for Rose? Okay, Rose, thank you. Okay, the future town referendums on the East Village expansion. We want to have a discussion about how we can have a referendum on that. Any ideas from the board?
I could start.
Yeah, please.
A couple of people have emailed me with, questions about having votes. And I replied pretty much with the same advice we got from the League of Cities and Towns heading into town meeting. They asked us, what kind of a town meeting do you have? Do you vote policy issues, all your policy issues by Australian ballot? No. Do you vote all your policy issues from the floor? No. We have a hybrid meeting. And so Carl had drafted some language, some suggested language, basically advisory. Should, the town, and I can't remember your exact language. But
I can't either.
should we go and pursue this project? And the advice from the lawyers there was, it's a non-binding vote, and it would give people on either side, any side of the issue, nothing to hang their hat on, and would be misleading in terms of what its legal standing was. So one of the people who, and I'm not going to name names, their question was, well, this $600,000 loan, would that have to be voted? Well, if you can't pay it back within the year, the simple answer is yes, that would have to go to a vote. No question about it. Okay. And it would be a binding vote. Okay. Just like the vote to create the reserve fund at town meeting was a binding vote. That was the best legal advice that we could get at the time to gauge the level of support at that time for continuing to explore this project. If we were to put a vote out now that said something similar, shall we, pursue, some amount of money, explore some amount of money for the purpose of this project, no matter what the outcome of that vote is, it would not be legally binding. It would create a misinterpretation and misunderstanding on either side, no matter how that vote would come out. What you need to put before the voters is something that is binding. Are you going to take out a loan? Are you going to bond for X amount of money? Are you going to purchase, X, Y, Z? Those are tangible, real things. And so I am very hesitant to do anything that looks like an advisory vote because it doesn't have legal standing. So that's where I'll start.
If we're looking for discussion, I mean, we can do that anytime, correct? It would be a select board meeting, I guess, if the select board was there, but there wouldn't be any actions taken.
Is the hearing on the now 25th, is that is a place for this discussion? No, is that true? Can this discussion be included there? I guess is really what I'm asking.
I want to make sure that the purpose of that meeting is attended to and we don't get it expanded too much.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that some of the discussion and some of the questions can happen then. The best place for the answers is at the committee and finding out or writing us. If we have an answer, we'll answer it. We don't know a lot of the questions that are being asked.
I would also say this. You know, I don't know what the final number is gonna be on the grant. We can ask for up to 10 million. So let's say we're gonna ask for something close to that. Right? If we get half of that. And then our number crunchers come back and say, geez, you know, that's great. This could cover the infrastructure. But maybe we should go ahead and pursue that loan for purchasing the property. And we also want to look at terms and conditions of the grant funds, because that may give us some more flexibility with those funds. Let's say we get zero. Then where are we? Then we're back to, well, do we bond for this as a tenant? Do we ask the taxpayers of Plainfield to pay for the whole thing? And hope that by selling lots, we can get that money back. And I know in the various workshops that were out there, you know, we've had, well, you know, I don't know how many units we lost, all told 38 units or something, but up to 75 units at one, you know, on one iteration, you know, it's all over. But, you know, 40 is a sort of reasonable number at this point. And particularly because if the target of meeting 70% of the homes for low and moderate income folks, that's a really, really big target for, and fits the profile of this community, quite frankly. You know, we're in a school district where the majority of taxpayers in this town get assistance from the state in paying their education property taxes. Okay, so we're mostly low and moderate income in this town. That's who we are. Okay, so that doesn't scare me. That sounds like it's possible. And it's more possible if we have outside money. It's less possible if we don't. So why the heck not ask? Why the heck not ask?
Graham, did you have a thought?
Yeah. Graham Tobin, Town Clerk. I think this question is really for, I noticed there's going to be an executive session. There have been requests from people regarding publicizing the purchase and sale agreements and the information, the appraisal information on the properties. If you could let me know to put that, if that's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, the appraisal, I don't know, but I will say, when we voted in the purchase and sale agreements last meeting, we said verbally, but did not do a good enough job of letting you and Jamie know that these agreements are public. So they should already be public. We definitely, those are public documents.
so
They were
they
publicly
will be-
voted on.
They will be placed for everyone to know. They will
Yeah.
be placed on.
And that was
on
our
the
fault for
website.
not,
Okay.
we
That'll be
said
placed on
it,
the
but we
website
didn't
tomorrow.
follow up with an email.
And let me know regarding the appraisals.
Yeah.
Too.
I think we're just gonna ask our attorney tonight to make sure, but I imagine we've already sent those to the Ethics Commission, so that's also probably a public document,
Yeah.
so. I imagine we can also put that up, but we'll just
Great.
double check.
Just let me know.
Any other thoughts? Yes, Michael.
It's Michael Fairground. I want to speak to Peter in particular. Everything you say is eminently reasonable. Under the rules. And except that I don't agree with your premise that an advisory vote would be interpreted differently by different sides. Let's say some kind of generic referendum is held, and the overwhelming majority of the population or the voting Plainfielders vote in favor of pursuing the project. Wouldn't the select board and wouldn't the rest of the town feel the weight of that referendum, regardless of whether it's binding? Wouldn't it be a useful vote to help everyone in the town understand where each of us stands. And what the general movement is.
I hear that question, and I've said this in response to not you, but others who have asked me this. Let's say it passed overwhelmingly. That would not give us the authority to go ahead, would not give us the authority to bond
Totally understand that.
or loan. You would have to have another vote. That's why it's not a meaningful in terms of action.
You might not need.
And
may
it
not-
costs
there may not
money,
be a money.
and it costs money to run an election. It costs time and resources of paid town staff, lots of volunteers, etc. When we were talking about perhaps doing a $600,000 loan, we looked at, well, can we piggyback with the bond that the Central Vermont Career Center is doing on in November? Because then it wouldn't cost us extra money. Well, the next time to do that would be town meeting. Otherwise, you're talking a special election, which is extra money. The advice from the League of Cities and Town is don't do it.
Yeah.
So Michael, I would love it if it didn't get misconstrued and it was just like, people would just say, yes, that's definitely it. But when we were at town meeting, someone stood up and said, we'd like to hear from the select board. What does this reserve vote mean to you? And I was the first select board person. I went back to the video and actually typed out what I said. I'm just gonna read it here. I don't speak for all five of us. I would like to know where folks stand on this specific project so we can know as a select board if we should be spending our time and energy creating a committee and doing other things for the project. We as a select board think housing and revitalizing the town is something we will be working on no matter what. We don't need an indication that housing and town revitalization are needed generally. I need the indication on how we should be spending select board time on this project. That's the reason for the vote. We don't want to move forward unless the town is interested in us spending our time as a select board. Within 20 minutes of me saying that, after being asked, it was 130 to 30 vote. So I feel like others are gonna say that wasn't what the vote was for, but literally in the meeting, select board members said that's what the vote is for. And there are still people who are saying that's not what the vote was for.
I voted for it.
Okay.
I am not excited about this project, but I voted for that. And I want you to understand that 130 people didn't vote to make it happen. They voted, as Francis Rose said, to see where it goes. That's not a problem.
We're still seeing where it goes.
None of us are upset with that. What we're worried about at this point is if certain steps are taken, it's really hard to turn around and stop. And this feels like that moment where we're applying for a massive grant that's the freight train that's rolling. If we get awarded $5, $6, $8 million, it is very hard to say, no, we don't want it, of course. But is it being applied properly? Is there support in the town from all the taxpayers to go that way, to take the risks that may be there, that some of us are presenting and some of you don't agree with? Go ahead, Dan.
But wouldn't that be the moment for us to decide when we can weigh how much support we're gonna get from the state? Weigh that against risk, weigh that against the cost of the project, weigh that against the steps we have to take. Wouldn't having that data point, knowing that, like, so it's one thing to say, should we do the project if we have to pay for it all ourselves? It's another thing to say, should we do the project if the state's gonna give us all or most of the money for it? They're very different questions. And so shouldn't we wait and get to the point where we know what we're gonna get as a data point to then have that conversation with all the facts?
If it's only about the money, you might be right, but I don't think it's only about the money.
But we don't know how people would vote based on. Some people will vote only about the money and some people won't, but we don't know that. We can't know what the, whatever number on our grand, the number of voters we have, like what they're thinking about. So shouldn't we wait till we have enough facts to present to them?
I don't think it hurts to have two kinds of votes. And the only thing that hurts is it's gonna cost the town money to do it, and I recognize that. That's a problem. We're paying taxes to support running an election. And if it's gonna be at a town meeting where people hold their hands up, it's not gonna cost a whole lot. And, I'm not even sure you can hold an Australian ballot on an advisory vote, can you?
No.
Don't know the answer.
So it's not gonna be an expensive thing. It just means we call a special town meeting. And we have a vote. And that is taking the temperature of the town. And it's not so threatening.
Betsy's got her hand up.
Betsy's got her hand up.
Betsy?
Hello, hi, try to speak. Okay, I would just recommend or offer as a consideration, whatever, 6 or 7 years ago, when we were considering whether we wanted to do the intersection, the complete, rebuild of the intersection. I know this is history, but we, the select board had 3 listening sessions. And then we had and someone like Tammy would remember exactly how we did the vote, but we had a write-in vote or a mail-in vote. And it wasn't, that's what it was, that they took that information, that it read so it was an opportunity for people to speak, hear about the project, speak to someone about the project, and then vote. And from that, the select board made a decision to go ahead with the choice of the complete rebuild. So there you go. That was an example of what we did, but it wasn't nothing binding, but it really read the community's preferences. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Charlie?
Charlie Cogbill. At town meeting, I was one of the people that led off the discussion from the floor, and I said the vote would be ambiguous. It had to be better defined, or else we would misinterpret it. Enough said. I want to plea here for communication. The select board, when they went into executive session to discuss the purchase of the land, they had 4 criteria which were to be met before they went in, including what the ethics committee said, including a timetable, including a budget. It was all confidential. I don't know if those 4 criteria were met. I would like to be informed. I have been going to most select board meetings, most of the East Village meetings, and I am totally confused about what is on the floor, what is being discussed, and especially what has been voted for. That is, what actions have been taken. As far as I can tell, there are 3 substantial votes that were taken by the select board of the East Village Committee referring to the East Village project. One by the select board to hire a lawyer, one by the select board to appoint a liaison, and one by the East Village Board to recommend that they take out the grant that's being discussed. I hope for open communication that the public is informed about what steps are taken, not just what's been talked about, because it's a changing target with changing motives, with changing budgets, with changing timetables. Could we please see at every step of the process what the timetable is, the budget and the monetary investment has jumped from 2.5 million to maybe 8.2 million to maybe 10 million plus other grants. Please, we have an accounting? Could we have an idea of what the town has already spent? And could that be couched in a formal motion by the select board saying, this is what was done, and townspeople, this is what we intend to do?
Dan?
Yeah, I'll just remind folks to go to the hearing for the CBDGR. They're definitely gonna have a lot of that information as part of the grant application. And including a lot of the budget stuff. I will say that the 2.5 million was when we were gonna be scrappy and doing it as a town, and then as there's opportunities for project management, for other services, for adding on the stuff about Martin Meadow, like the reason you get one chance at this disaster recovery grant as far as we have the capacity to do, and it's a one-time thing. So we're adding things, we're trying to create the best possible package. So I don't think that, I don't think that saying it went from 2.5 to 8.2 is an apples to apples comparison. And we're gonna get those information on September 25th. I agree that we need, to continue communicating. The EVEAC, I know, Kirsty Grant is posting minutes and reports after every meeting publicly at Front Porch Forum and other places. They're digging into the details. And so I think just going on the Plainfield website, there's a draft timeline, there's a budget estimator, there's a lot of documents that they have put up already. That I think, we have to spend time looking at, but that are available to the public to answer a lot of these questions, including a huge frequently asked questions or something like that sheets. And then there's also Karen's CDBG DR grant explainer that she just put out this week. So I think there's a lot of information. I think we can do a better job of highlighting and like simplifying what information might be important, or highlighting what's going on more specifically from a every other week or once a month perspective. And I'll definitely take that in, Charlie.
Yes, up to this point, it's been unsatisfying, and I say I've been on those things. And I think it's premature to have a vote without having that information.
David?
David Beckman, again, I really hope not to say anything tonight. Dan, I just want to say, as I've done a lot of building projects, none of that scale. I wouldn't be satisfied with giving a potential, we're potential customers in a funny way. The town is being asked to at least facilitate, if not put out money for this project. The budgets that have been put out, I would be embarrassed to hand that to a customer who was just building one house. It's not thorough, it's not complete, it just doesn't have, the various contingencies. The 2.5 million budget did expand on the same basis to somewhere close to $5 million, and that was without accounting for inflation and things that might happen. All of that stuff has been, in my opinion, completely inadequate. And I, if someone had said, we're sorry, we kind of screwed this up. We thought it was going to be 2.5 million, but it's going to be 5 million. I would have accepted that. I've made mistakes. I've worked with people who have made mistakes. I haven't heard one thing like that. All I've heard is, well, that's what happens. And if that's true, that's what happens, then how do we have any confidence that it's not going to happen again? Right. So I just wanted to make that point. Town meeting. I went over some of the transcripts, or the transcript's not online anymore, but the recording. Different people said different things. Different select board members said different things. The project has gone way beyond just investigating the feasibility. There's a purchase and sales agreement for the property. It's got contingencies, I know, we don't know yet, maybe we'll know tomorrow because it'll be online, what they are. That's not just a feasibility, that's an agreement. And that agreement, I don't know, I assume some of the contingencies are about funding. Does that mean if the funding goes through, that no matter what the people in the town think, or if there's a vote, that then it has to happen? Is there anything there? It's a legal agreement that says if this happens, and this happens, the town is obligated to buy that property. that's beyond just feasibility as far as I'm concerned.
These are the things we're working on, David. I mean, this is what we're trying to make sure we get right. That's why we have an attorney, our attorney here to make sure
But
it's.
there's one- That's my understanding.
It's an understanding.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to, I'm not trying to, like I said, I really didn't, I said it in my posting online and to my letter to everyone. I don't really want to litigate all these things. What I really want to do is find a way to let people of the town weigh in on this in a real way, on the real project. Do people want to do this project? Does the bulk of people want to do this project? I don't think it's fair to say, oh, we got the 6 million or however much money might come through in a grant. We got this $6 million. Now do you want to use it? Do we not use it? So, you know, I heard you, Peter.
I get you.
Heard the details, but my reaction to that, not being a bureaucrat or, you know, that kind of thing, is there's gotta be a way to do it. There's gotta be a way to let people who feel disenfranchised and not, you know, feel like they have not had a chance to speak out about this. That's not me, I've spoken out. Have a say. I'd love for it to be something like what Betsy pointed out or talked about with the intersection, because I think if it's a meeting, you know, then it's like town meeting and you've got literally maybe 20% of the potential voters. If it's some kind of a mailing or one more thing, to me, it's a little bit much to say, oh, well, it's gonna cost money to have a vote. It's cost money already, we know that, either money is either obligated or spent, it's gotta be. I don't think lawyers are working for free to do purchase and sales agreements and give opinions about bonding and all of that, so, you know, let's not, you know, kind of say, oh, we can't spend whatever it costs to have a vote, that's, I mean, you can say it if you want, but it doesn't satisfy me, it makes me feel kind of bad, telling the truth.
David, I don't know if you're one of the ones that I did send a purchase and sales agreement to. Anyone who's asked me, I have sent it to. And I can, and I don't know why it's not up on the website, but there are plenty of conditions in it. When you see it, it's like, yeah, is financing's part of it? All the permits have to happen. You know, it's basically, there's no risk to the town here. We put $1,000 down on three contracts, right? And that money comes back to us. It's sitting in the lawyer's IOLTA account right now, you know, as these things do. And if the funding doesn't happen, the permits don't happen, then the purchases don't happen. There's no risk. Then great. Then we own the property and we have the ability.
But Peter.
Well, let's not, can we?
Let me also say something specifically about the grant, David, let me say something specifically about the grant process. The grant process, one of the things that it requires is that we show site control. So in order to pursue the grant, you have to show site control, and that's what those documents do. They're totally conditioned, but that is one of the threshold things that's required in the grant. So why wouldn't we do that? Because there's no risk.
Peter, I think the reason we wouldn't do it is because that's not what the town agreed to do at town meeting. The town agreed overwhelmingly, the people who were at town meeting, to investigate the feasibility of that project, which we still don't know, in my opinion.
And this is part of the investigation of that feasibility, because it depends on how much we get with the grant.
Yeah, Dan, you had a thought?
Yeah, I was just gonna say to the lawyer's fees piece, okay. Other than the $1,000 deposit, which is reimbursable, the town general fund has spent no money on this. There have been assistance grants that our grant administrator has gotten that are for technical services, and they are what is paying any of those legal fees. It is not coming out of the general practice. We spoke about that when we had the vote to bring on a real estate attorney. We talked about where the money was coming from. And so it is grant money for a technical purpose like what we are doing. So I just wanted to make sure that it's clear, like there's people saying we're spending thousands and thousands of dollars of town money already. No general fund money is going to this. Like we have been setting this up as select board. So we've heard people that we are trying to get as far as we can in this project to find out the feasibility. And part of the feasibility for a town to do a project like this is what kind of state assistance can we get? And we don't know state assistance until we go through that process. And so we can't, it's very easy to add up costs on one side, but not add up benefits.
That's a catch-22, because the problem becomes if you go through you've examined all the feasibilities and they're positive and it's grants and, you know, things that like the purchase and sales agreement and whatever. It's, as Peter says, well, why wouldn't we go ahead?
Well,
So I think there has not been a chance for people in the town to weigh in beyond what happened at town meeting, which I think everybody will agree, we have different views on what that meant. But I accept that, you know, you have a different view than I have about that, but let's find a way so that if this project happens or it doesn't happen, everybody's feels as though they've had a chance to weigh in. I'll say one more thing, you know, it's good to hear that it wasn't town money for the lawyers, but let's see I've said this a number of times, publicly and privately, all of that should be public record in writing on the website for people to look at. If there was a grant that was received and there's money associated with it that's on to pay lawyers, that should all be posted. Everything that's happened with this project, including all the stuff that the committee has done and the ad hoc committee, should be posted. My understanding, which may be wrong, is that there was money committed by the ad hoc committee that still maybe due people. There was some information about that. All of that stuff should be public record. It should be public record as soon as possible so that we know, so that I don't make the mistake of saying that the town paid for the lawyers.
Yeah.
And so that I can make an informed decision about what I think about the process. And there's been, you can say, oh, there's all kinds of information. My response to that is, you know, that sheet that's on the committee website that has the budget. You know, it's like a half a page, no details.
Have you asked the committee how to make it better? I mean,
Publicly said all of this stuff.
okay,
He's never come to one of our meetings.
I just want to be sure that the committee knows that there's deficiencies if in your mind, and that they should know that.
I've been pretty public.
Okay.
You haven't gone to a committee meeting and.
I've watched the committee meetings on Zoom and I've read,
No, I'm just saying you haven't brought the point to the committee.
No,
Okay,
no,
but now at least some of the members are here,
Yeah.
so they're
Yeah.
hearing.
Okay, they've heard it.
Next.
Okay, can we, yep, move along.
Spend my life doing this, Alicia Weiss, I'm gonna switch, tracks a little bit, maybe to relief to some of you, but before I do, I want to remind us all that we wouldn't be here. Debating or speaking, discussing, having spirited discussion, to this extent, if we all didn't care very, very much about this town, about Plainfield, its future, its security, and we may have different visions of what that means, but I think we need to recognize, you know, each other's basic goodness in that place.
Thank you.
At some point, I'm hoping there will be some type of formal vote so that referendum, whatever you would like to call it, and I want to remind people that if there is a vote or if there was an advisory vote, if you decided it's a good idea to do an advisory vote about something, that it should not be a floor vote, because currently, in defiance of the Americans with Disability Act, Vermont state voting laws preclude the inclusion of people who cannot either make it to town meeting or who are unable to sit in a room with people the town meeting are unable to sit for an undetermined amount of period, so that, and I know people who said they wanted to come and they couldn't. Similarly, and this is, you know, a broader issue, town meeting, floor votes discriminate against people who don't get paid leave time and need childcare and things like that. So I ask you to think about that going forward, especially if there's an advisory meeting, which could be held by floor vote. Please don't.
I have a question for the board, actually. Some of you may know the answer. If we had this meeting that we're talking about, this advisory meeting, could we have people vote on Zoom?
If it's,
It's advisory.
if it's advisory, yeah, state law does not allow voting by Zoom in town elections, but
Right.
if it wasn't an official town vote, it was advisory only, I don't know that it would be stopped. I don't know how we would verify who was on and that they
Right.
lived within the town boundaries,
Right.
which I think is why it sounded like Tammy and others maybe have had a mail-in vote.
Mhm.
Obviously, mail service is not what it used to be either, so not everybody gets their mail the way that they should sometimes, so I think that would all be another, like, we would have to look at. I mean,
There's Rapids did it, and there are also towns in other states, and there are some fully accessible and protective of voter identity, which we all know has come under scrutiny for various reasons.
Well,
And platforms, and I could happy to send information about that.
Yeah, if you have that, that would be of interest. And thank you for bringing it up. It's important. And yeah.
About this, but just in this context.
Thank you, Lisa.
Charlie?
This is Charlie Cogbill, and it's one sentence. I just heard that there was a fund or grants that were being used to pay for the lawyer and other things. My question is, what fund in the town did it pass through? Did it pass through the reserve fund for East Village?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that. In one minute.
The treasurer's here.
The
Did you
treasurer
answer,
just
Josh? I didn't
responded-
hear you.
Josh just said it passed through the general fund.
What?
Josh just said that it passed through the general fund.
Well, then can I point out a contradiction that's appeared tonight?
It is money for a specific purpose.
Yeah. All right. Are we?
Arian's Boomery, one of the co-chairs on the East Village Expansion Advisory Committee. Just a couple of points. You know, I really want to emphasize that while there's still many ways this project doesn't go anywhere, and if we don't pursue these things like the grant, we're never gonna know. And, you know, the town can be awarded the grant and not accept it, like, that's the thing. There is a grant agreement, that agreement takes a long time to negotiate, there's often many details, there may be some deal breakers in that. But what I do know is that if we don't apply for the grant, we will not get it, that is guaranteed. You know, in terms of the cost on this, I think that's actually one, and so let me say for David Scheckman's benefit and others, as one of the people who said, this is a $2.5 million project and it has grown considerably. If I got together with a bunch of friends with excavators, if I called Lloyd Farnham and other Farnhams with heavy equipment, and we did this as a way, probably many of the roads and infrastructure was in fact built in Plainfield decades ago. It actually would be a much cheaper project, but the level of permitting, insurance, various overseeing and engineer that has to go into it as a state project or as a project with federal funds, it is amazing the levels that are legally required to be incorporated. And so I still think that if this were, you know, if this were 100 years ago, this product would be obviously not counting inflation. This project would be a much simpler, much less expensive project. So I think I actually have been sort of awestruck over and over again by how many layers. When you do something else as a public project, you know, if you want to cut down a tree at your own house, you can get a chainsaw and cut that tree down. If you want to cut a tree down for the town, you better put in a bid, you better be insured, have tons of insurance, and you better have a formal business that the town can contract with who is capable of executing the paperwork to sign a town contract. So just the layers of that, you can imagine that the project all of a sudden cost twice as much. And so just when people are like, how do these things keep growing? It's like, well, when you get the feds involved, it's like you add a whole nother layer onto it. So it's just like, oh, you get a lot of federal money, but you have to spend a bunch of it in order to comply with the federal criteria for that federal money. So this is just, I just, these questions have been asked, and I just want to put them out there, like, this is why that's happening. It's not a mystery. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Thank you.
So I think, I love the idea of input. I do think we are really looking, we got a grant deadline in 3 weeks. And, I think we should have a robust hearing and look at it, and everybody should review the proposal. But I also think that under any circumstance that we're have some kind of counter referendum before that, does not strike me as realistic. Thank you.
Dan,
So, we had scheduled for 7:45 to be our executive session because our real estate attorney is here, and we are, he is billing hopefully by the hour. I wonder if we move either, I don't know what Josh has to present. If we move forward to get the town treasurer's report, road commissioner's report, and then go into executive session, and when we come back out, we can do some votes. I'm guessing we might want to table the disability insurance conversation until the 9:22 meeting.
Yeah,
But
that
just as it's 4 minutes before the normal end of our meeting and we still have business left,
yeah,
I wonder how we can make sure that we're utilizing both Josh, who's been working since 8 o'clock this morning's time, and also the attorneys.
I can leave and come back after you do executive session. That's fine.
Okay.
okay, that's good. That sounds good. That's a good recommendation.
So can I move to table the personnel policy and disability insurance conversation to the September 22nd
22nd, yeah.
meeting? Peter, are you good with that? Can I work with you on that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All
Second it.
All those in favor? Say aye.
right. Aye.
Aye. All right, and then the town treasurer's report, we have,
Well, we're gonna do that after.
oh, we're gonna do it after. I'm sorry, yes.
And we can do the minutes and all the other stuff after as well.
Yep, okay, so we'll go to the executive session.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Second, we're still going to logistics. So we're tabling that, and then we'll do so I'm just moving up the executive session, but we're gonna do our minutes
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah,
afterwards.
we'll have to do that afterwards, and Joshua's offered to come back.
Okay, Josh, I'll text you.
We'll text, yeah.
Thank you.
Before you leave, I just want to point out another time it's happened, I think we corrected it. It says that the next select board meeting will be the 22nd. I won't personally talk to that, but the next select board meeting is actually the 15th. I was asked by Francis Rose to put together an emergency management presentation for the select board, so that's the 15th would be our next real meeting.
Okay,
And I have, just said, comparable to asking the planning commission to give a meeting, asking the hazard mitigation committee to give a meeting, and asking the planning group to give a presentation. It's a public presentation for the select board on the 15th.
okay, yep, thank you for that clarification.
We shut off the Zoom. Motion to enter into executive session.
For the purposes of
This is the real estate legal discussion.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 So you can just push everyone into the waiting room.
Yeah, give me a second to figure that
Yeah.
out.
Mhm.
I don't think she was here. Denise, we did appoint you to be the emergency management coordinator before you arrived. We're now going into executive session. So we're asking folks to leave or are going to be put in the waiting room indefinitely.
Okay, I'm
So
gonna be,
just wanting to acknowledge your presence. Thank you for your service. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right, so
thank
wanna
you.
Pause the recording.
Yeah.
On. Yeah,
Are we back?
we are back.
We are back.
We are back from executive session. We have a motion to,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to exit executive session at 9:02 PM.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And would you, did you have a,
I do have a second motion. I was just getting the notes in.
okay,
I'd also like to make a motion to create addendums to the purchase and sale agreements that changes the address on the Syringa properties to the correct address and to extend the closing date on all agreements to March 31st, 2026.
second, all those in favor say aye.
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 And we are back to discussion of the town treasurer.
Oh, and there was the tabling of the postponement of the Jarvis discussion.
That's later.
Oh,
Yeah, that's good. We're gonna bring it, we're gonna get that.
okay.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you wanna move.
Yeah, do it now.
Make a motion to postpone the
Action.
action on the TJ Jarvis letter. We're still in negotiation.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. So what do you need to tell us? In the treasurer's report. Thanks for coming back, by the way.
Okay. So I emailed everybody and I was like, we need some financial policies now. And
15 of them.
that was,
That's what it is.
those are all of the financial policies that I've saved down from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
And this is because we're going for grants. Is that
So
right?
in order to like secure this grant funding with CDB GDR, like all of that discussion would be moot if we didn't have some of these financial policies in place. Because we can't even submit the final application, right? Without having certain financial policies in place. Dan, thank you for putting together like the rapid fire document here.
Yeah.
So I looked at the 15, I actually had gotten a bunch of them copied, but then I looked at the examples that Josh had sent. Salisbury's is like a 1.5 page, pretty brief financial policy. Swanson's is at least more comprehensible because it goes through by the models and creates 6 policies. One of which we already have, which is a procurement policy, and theirs looks very similar to the one that we have already. But the other 5 are new policies.
The procurement policy, we may need to update the procurement policy separate from this to, so that we are in alignment with the, CFR, 2 CFR Part 200. Which I have on hand if anyone needs to look at that, which is all about how the rules for federal funds, right? So there's some things in procurement that we have to do differently to align with 200 CFR. That would be for any of those federal funds projects. It's helpful here for this thing, but is unrelated to that, but also that's an also and. There were a couple things in here that we need to amend, and I am totally on board and like.
Now, are you working off of the draft that Dan sent out this afternoon?
Yes.
Okay, because I did read through that. That looked great.
Yeah, it was terrific.
There's a
Thank
few
you.
places where I had comments.
Yeah, you highlighted.
Yeah, like these are the places, other than when I had to put Plainfield in a bunch of places, and I did add some things, but then I highlighted them anyway, but yeah.
Like,
Who are authorized, who's authorized to take money for the town, for example, it's not a policy we have, but some have as little as the 4 people that work in the office, and some list, delinquent taxes and a bunch of other things.
I can't believe the town of Plainfield has lived without any of this stuff for so long.
I mean, I can believe it because I live in this town.
Yeah, I know.
But I can't believe from a modern era
Yeah.
perspective, we don't have there's like fraud prevention policies, and there's a lot of stuff.
So I did not have like all of the wood behind the arrow to get through all of this, like, to check some things. There's a couple of things that I need to go back and look at and see, and like, you know, some of the preparing and depositing funds stuff, because that's like, it doesn't make sense in terms of the size of the town and the number of people involved. And then some of the stuff around, you know, the fraud prevention, that was good. And then there's some things with the fund balance reserve policy that I have to check against.
Well, that's the one too. So I brought in the 5-1. If you go through Salisbury's, and apparently these are the examples because they meet enough requirements.
Most towns just use the BLTC.
Well, no, I'm saying, but like if you look at Salisbury's policy, which was one of the examples, it pulls from a few of the, it pulls from some petty cash and cash on the cash ones. It pulls from the accounting one, like some of these model policies, but it's not, doesn't have all 6 of these policies in it. And it doesn't talk about reserve funds at all in it. So, because the way Swanton does it is they have one reserve fund from the looks of it, the highway reserve fund or a roads reserve fund that they just started last year. So they named the date that it was voted on and the purpose of it. We would have to do that for all of our reserve funds, including figuring out when were reserve funds that have existed for decades voted in, right? And we don't know, I mean, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Like when did we first vote in a reserve fund for the rec department or whatever?
And I don't know that
Well, that's in the
detail
policy. I
is,
mean-
but I don't know that detail is necessary for CDBG-DR.
No, I think we could just say reserve funds are for the, must be segregated and like, we could use the language without enumerating the reserve funds we have.
So here's my question. I mean, when Josh sent his thing this morning, I said, you know, but I'm like, I can work on this on Thursday or
Yeah.
Friday, you know, does this make sense to like the 3 of us to sit down and?
Yeah, I'm pretty free. I have one thing on Friday, but, and then I think Wednesday, like, yes.
And is this for voting on the 22nd?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the goal, yes. Yeah, because it has to be
So
ready for
I would
30.
say, for me, noonish Thursday or sometime Friday. I am in Seattle all next week for work, so I cannot work on this next week.
Friday,
I have the only thing I can't move, I have a noon and a 1 I can't move, so I could do anything in the morning. And I could do after 2 o'clock probably on Friday.
okay.
Any of those work for me.
Yeah, and if I were to take part, I'd
Well,
be
you
Friday
can,
too.
if you take part.
Oh, wait, I can't do it though.
Well, only 2 of us can. You're welcome to do it with them. I can
Yeah.
extricate myself now that I've done some of the work. but-
No,
But you've got all the work done. You're the better guy. I forgot about the forum.
2:33-ish, sound good,
On
Friday?
Yeah, let's,
2:30, okay,
yeah.
aim for that.
So, but just to give a little bit of explainer, you know, so like some of this, like the monthly and annual financial reporting, like obviously I should be doing that. Part of the reason it's been difficult to get through all that is making like the mass number account change in Nemrick has proven to be rather difficult, like to implement. And then
Which is
other-
why we haven't hounded you on it, so.
other stuff
But I
keeps
think
coming
even if
up.
we had a policy, like let's say in a bizarro world, previous select boards actually put these things in place and like we can still have the policy and then understand that there's like that does like policies don't always 100% get followed exactly.
And like you know, like I'm so close to getting all of the expense items like sorted,
Mhm.
which would then allow me to give you the budget to actual for the budget we voted on and not the past like chart of accounts budget that preceded it. Right. So that's been like the one thing that's kind of been like, but other things like keep coming up that are more urgent, like FEMA or receiving the taxes, et cetera. And so, but like I spent the better part of my day working on the all of that chart of accounts because every account that existed has to map to one new existing account. So you do get some although slightly out of focus, still reliable budget to actual year over year. Like, telephone and internet everywhere is like merged. Like the town hall telephone and internet is one line item. And so I'm splitting out all these phone and internet, and like certain things in like different departments are like lumped, but they don't make sense that how they're lumped together as like an expense. Because like maintenance is different from repair, especially since, in the town hall opera house, we have a fund for like some of that like big work. It aside from like the amount that we have. And so just sort of having all the expenses kind of lumped in this way where, it makes things too obscure, and trying to give more clarity, which is the whole point of, changing the chart of accounts. The other thing so, and then this dictates modified accrual basis. So there's a bit of work that has to be done properly to go from uh essentially cash to modified accrual. And that's covered in and then this says generally accepted accounting principles. So
GAAP.
Government Accounting Standards Board, GASB, right? So GASB puts out like statements about how to do things. And so like the financial reporting model improvements and accounting changes and error corrections, that's all of this stuff is what I'm doing right now. And so this is all the like guidance on best practices. So I'm like doing the thing, I'm trying to do the thing without the policy, but I'm doing, it's sort of trying to implement this policy while trying to figure out how to implement the policy that doesn't exist yet. So I'm like ready for this. It's not just like, oh, we just need to do it and like, to get the grant. It's like, no, we need to do this anyway, but now we have like a deadline. It's like, okay, I guess this is how everything works. It's like I'm doing just the urgent things and just in time.
So the good news is we've been working towards this, and this is
Yeah,
a great excuse to get it done.
and like a lot of the like some of the things that aren't in here that are in the League of Cities and Towns model policies we can adopt later. Um, so I've written up a lot of notes on this today, and uh, and part of like the situation with why did that go through the general fund? It's like, well, the resolution was to create a new fund, but like I can't actually create that fund until the new fiscal year, right? But we got those funds before the new fiscal year.
I got you.
So, and if Charlie had stepped up to be the auditor and had learned all this stuff, maybe he would have actually.
I thought you were trying to get Riley to do that.
Riley said no, so I'm going back to Charlie. But like, and Charlie thinks he has a gotcha, but I'm like, great. Like, let's lean into this gotcha. Why is this like you think this is a gotcha? And like, what is the timing on that? And it's like so hopefully by like, next month, I think by the end of the week, I'm gonna get this chart of accounts thing sorted. Like, and part of the reason like the cash receipts was all bonkers too, is like we needed to implement the cash receipts module. Part of the reason it's difficult to like do all of this mass account number change is like in payroll, right? Like your stipends have a code, and it's a code in the general ledger, right? So when they, initiate the stipends or put in my paycheck, each one of those things hits the budget. When you change the mass account numbers, it pushes into the other modules all these changes. So you have to kind of be very careful that in the numbers that you're changing, you're not going to push like bad data so that things don't flow right, right? So you've got to kind of double check everything and make sure that that's all lined up. And there's 496 lines in the chart of accounts and growing. And then, with some of these reserve funds that we've set up and like, for example, this $0 reserve fund that we didn't put any money into, like that, like, we need a fund for that, but we also need to create new funds to sort of manage the flow of expenditures and revenues from the MERP grant for the, you know, energy resilience program. MERP, yeah, like, and so that needs to, we need to create kind of like a fund so that you can see, like, when they look at that report at the end of the year, like, okay, these are the things that are like, you know, these are the activities of the municipality, and here are all of the sort of activities distinct, like, through the various funds. And then, you know, so that's kind of what I'm working on today. Now, it's been nice to have the tax revenue, so I'm not really worried about AP. Everything has been paid up and on time, I think, as far as I can tell. And and then Carl came down. There was one little thing that was lagging because there was an amendment on a grant agreement around the Mill Street Bridge project grant. So we had to get a little.
For the project manager or for the design?
It was for the actual grant itself from the state. There was an amendment made shortly after that grant agreement was signed, and that amendment never made it through to me to understand that we needed to get that signed, and that, I think, was holding up some funds coming through, so we got that sorted out today. And that's a pretty significant expenditure because, like, the town spent like $237,000, I think, of our own money on that. On, I think, just one invoice to fix that bridge and amongst others. And so, you know, to get the funds coming in, you know, that's been kind of the big issue there. And then, so that's kind of what I have for treasurer stuff. Any other treasurer?
Well, my question is gonna be next one, the 22nd. We're gonna be signing off on.
Yeah, this is,
So these guys are gonna be getting together with you Friday
yep,
and sorting out how to present that. So we
Yeah, they're
have,
very small details that I'm very glad we don't have to do the debt policy. Cause there are some Peter might actually understand that, but they were like percentages and other things. We would have to set some real specific financial policy that I think would take more conversation
yeah,
than we're ready for right now, but that was not one of the ones that at least Swanton did, so.
all of the loans and grants and et cetera, and programs, they all need like financial statements. And so so getting this, at least the current net position sorted and pushed out, like, is also like really an urgent thing that has to happen.
Do we have a complete list from Liz Curry or somebody of the ones that we actually need for this grant?
Oh, yeah, like
I've seen an email where she throws out like one or two, but I'm like, is that it or?
I have a list of my own stuff that I'm looking through, you know, and this was on.
Or CDBG?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I started, when I was going through the online application, and they're like, holy crap, we don't have this, we don't have this.
yeah.
You know, the resolution that we were given is like, we haven't assigned that, we haven't done that. This is like threshold stuff. You're not even in the door unless you have this stuff.
yeah, and so, you know, like a lot of the things, like, I need
Well, I
to
think
get in the
part of
door.
that is because they were completing the pre-application.
Yeah.
Which they put in, which took a bunch of time.
Yeah.
And so they were focused on the things that were required in the pre-application.
Yeah.
And they have changes, a bunch of changes on that as well.
I will say about the resolution real quick, I know this is your time, Josh, but we did not vote on this tonight.
No,
No,
And so I'm just gonna throw this away, so we don't accidentally send it in or something.
Ah.
We all signed it, but we didn't vote on it, so we shouldn't have signed it.
right.
So I'm just gonna rip it. Cause it's gotta get a new date on it. It's got the date on it.
oh, that's
So
okay.
Karen's gonna have to print another one.
Yeah.
Or someone's gonna have to.
She'll have to bring it to
It's the
the
22nd.
What's the
22nd.
name of that for the next agenda?
The
To pass
it is called the resolution for VCDP Grant Application Authority, Vermont Community Development Program is VCDP.
Resolution, what the
Yeah,
last.
she has to
Grant Application Authority
create a new document with
with the 22nd on it.
Yeah.
Just so we don't get confused, or
Yeah.
maybe it comes back in the folder and then they, you know,
Yeah, thanks, Dan, that's.
sorry.
Right, it's all part of the same thing. The any other treasurer related things?
Do we still have roads?
Well, we actually met with Ashley Andrews last week to select 3 sites to work on to, for the municipal roads general permit, grants and aid award for 15K. So we're getting some, so that's like the smallest bucket of money that we can get for, road projects. And generally it's like for the smaller, sections of roadway that need to get brought up to spec for the municipal roads general permit. And so year over year, like I think this year there's 9,600. I'm not sure if we were getting that or not. I think we did. And then 15,000 is next year's. And so Michael met with Ashley Andrews and they went around
And who is this person?
Ashley Andrews is through V-Trans, administers the grants and aid program. And then I've been working with Michael to outline some future, kind of getting the new road crew familiar with Vermont Better Roads manual, which is kind of like the that is the municipal general roads permit, but it's really in service of water quality. And so we have to have all of our deficient sections meet codes and standards by 2030, or if they're not too bad, 2036. Like we have a lot, and they're giving us some grace, of course, because of the big places where it's just there's not a road there anymore. They're like, yeah, that's not. So it's kind of like the other places that didn't really get a lot of damage. So, but in this Better Roads manual, it's basically an instruction manual for how to like construct road surfaces and best practices and drainage, and it's an easy to read manual. And like that kind of ties into stormwater master planning and there's been a lot of discussion about stormwater for this program and like the town of Plainfield, this sort of is bringing up evidence that the town doesn't really have a good stormwater master plan. And it, like if the town had a stormwater master planning incorporated, and this would be probably the purview of the planning commission, because this is everything that's outside of the right of way of the roads. Within the right of way of the roads is all through the Better Roads program and Act 64 of like 2015, which is the Municipal General Roads Permit, Clean Water Act, et cetera. But outside of that, like handling some of the issues with stormwater and how things are moving on private property.
Like the Bartlett Farm stuff that comes down into the village and runs into Creamery Street.
Or like the impervious surface created by like the construction of the health center, for example, kind of like that sort of stuff. And so I've been kind of slowly I've been the victim of a little bit of scope creep in kind of paying attention to like the stormwater, because one of the things that in the road crew, they can only operate within their right of way, right? But there may be situations where we can mitigate a lot of the like hazard to infrastructure by like going beyond that right of way and creating structures that there's grant funding for. And some of this stuff is new. and it's in a draft language. I'm doing some like research on the side when I can't stare at the GL anymore. And so stormwater, that has been kind of the thing, and so some of the attention given to this project is actually driving, like all the people who are like complaining about this project, just analyzing the project has had many knock-on effects that actually bring benefit to the town. So I think it's a bit, it's like the people who are crying foul about having to spend the money on like giving attention to this don't realize all of the upsides of paying attention to like, the attention we're paying as a municipality versus a private developer. Because as a municipality, I, in charge of like stormwater as it connects to roads, have to be able to answer these questions. And that makes me a better operator in that capacity. And I think that is worth all of the money that we have spent on this, right? Like, and nobody seems to be mentioning that or taking that into consideration.
Gotta take a stand, Josh. Get up to that podium.
I yelled at a bunch of people outside.
That
is not.
Are they still out? No.
No, there's no one else out there but Jeff.
Can I ask a road question? There's a new bump with handmade bump signs up on East Hill. Was that a new culvert that was put in?
On East Hill?
No, it's not. Is it on East Hill? Or is it, did I go over it? No.
I went over it yesterday and it was like, and somebody like, and it's definitely a bump.
I think it's a
Is
culvert.
that gonna be settled? I said, was this a new culvert that was put in or?
On East Hill?
Maybe it's, no, I think it's a little further past. It might be on Brook Road, just towards the Orange Town line. But
I went over that too.
yeah.
But I can't
And
remember
it
where
has,
it is.
it has two handmade signs
Yeah.
that say bump.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a bump, but the truck that was following behind me and going over the speed limit launched a little bit.
How,
Seems like if there was
how
a
is
new
it
culvert
able to
created
follow
above there,
you
it'd be
and
more
go
than
over the speed limit, Peter?
like if it-
No, it's two handmade.
Why do I'm saying, I would imagine a local resident made the handmade signs.
No, I think it was the road crew.
You think the road crew?
It was an
Yeah.
orange, it was an orange sign, but one had a handwritten.
Oh, like it's a big sign. It's not
Yeah.
like just like a piece of paper.
Big.
No,
Oh,
it's
okay.
like a square, but the word bump was written,
Oh.
handwritten.
Yeah,
That's
I
good.
saw that. And I can't remember where.
Then you can wipe it off and write curve, wipe it off, write slow down. I mean, so many uses.
Dry erase markers.
I don't know about that one. I'll figure that out. On Brook Road,
I thought it was East Hill, but it might have been.
It might have been
I
like-
drove into Barry.
We're going out to Reservoir Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been out there. I can't remember either, but I remember going over. it.
Still in town, not in Orange.
No,
And I was going the speed limit. I didn't leave the ground.
I'm still
Just-
curious how Peter was going the speed limit and the truck behind him was exceeding the speed limit.
It was coming up fast in my rearview mirror.
Well, that's why the bump was there. to
And
slow
then,
it down.
and then he blew by me. And I couldn't get his license plate fast enough, but he was definitely going well over. the
I get
speed.
guys going 60 miles an hour, I'm sure, about my house.
This was a silver pickup truck.
I'll figure that one out. We
Yeah.
did install a new culvert on Country Club Road recently, but to put in a culvert, I think we would have had to close the road, so.
Oh, that would have been a problem.
We haven't closed the road at all, because there's no way around.
Yeah, it must have been on that, it must have been in the orange, going out to orange.
I mean, they might have put the signs up because a bump has been created and they haven't had time to go fix it.
And it's right at a place where there's a culvert. And I was like, oh, so did this
Well,
like
the
rock?
roads might just be settling around a culvert that's already there or something.
Well, I don't know, I'll have to go figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I can
It
find
was
it.
new. The
Hey, I
bump, the
gotta-
bump was new.
What,
This
was it new since either Thursday or Saturday when there was a ton of rain?
Well,
Was it new since Saturday? Cause it might have been,
I
there
think
might have
so.
been some sort of rain
I think so.
runoff issue that created
Yeah.
a bump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. Should we contact Marshfield about opening Bean Road through to
I
Marshfield?
mean,
Have
it
you,
doesn't hurt,
I mean, I can talk to
Is
the
the-
chair over there.
because the I think it's a class 4 road.
It is, and it has a monster stone in the middle of it, but
But it's class 4 in Marshfield, right?
yeah, and I gotta talk to them about that. But,
Where does it go
but
to?
it would, well, it goes over,
Top top of Maple Hill.
it goes to Maple
Maple
Hill.
Hill.
So it would give us, at least, it would give the upper end of East Hill Road a way to get to town if you have to close, to, for example, to put in a culvert.
Right, which there are multiple sites on East Hill that.
Yes.
Like at Alex, Sasha's
Yeah,
place.
That one has been waiting for some time.
yeah, that's one's really needed. Anyway, I'll give a call. I was thinking of that today. I just want to make sure you hadn't started anything there.
Are you done, Josh?
Yeah.
Can I make a motion to approve the minutes from August 25th, 2025?
Second.
You may, and all of us can say aye. if you
Aye.
approve.
Aye.
And can I also make a motion to approve accounts payable for 8/25 and 8/29, 2025, and payroll for August 28th and September 4th, 2025?
Second.
All those in favor, say
Aye. And can we announce that the next select board meeting is a special emergency managed select board meeting next Monday, September 15th at 6 PM, and the next regular select board meeting is Monday, September 22nd at 6 PM?
Yeah. Does that need a motion?
No,
that,
I'm just announcing it.
oh, yes,
So the special, that's at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, they're both
Yeah.
at 6 PM.
yeah, that's,
And
and
then
that's,
the other one that he had was, he wanted to change later.
He has another, it's not a select board meeting, it's a,
it's an informational meeting, and I think I,
It's, that's the one with, what's his name, Cubbin from,
Coven,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
Pete,
at 7 PM on the 18th,
yeah.
yeah,
but that is not a select board meeting,
right,
No, that's the hazard.
unless I guess enough
hazard-
of you show up.
That's the hazard mitigation plan. I went to the meeting with him and Seal and Mr. Cubbin. And whatnot, and basically he's doing this for a bunch of towns.
yeah,
And, he has pretty simple survey questions and stuff like that, but it's required, and apparently they lost all their money to fund this,
oh, oh, geez,
so it's a federal requirement, but the feds cut the money, so.
yeah,
And I guess I will be out of town for both of the meetings next week.
okay,
You all will just have to make sure that 3 of you don't show up to the one on the 18th.
yeah.
Is
Or if
the
we do,
18th
we're gonna have to spread ourselves out.
Well,
the
even
18th
that,
regularly scheduled hazard mitigation meeting?
I think
It's.
it is their night.
It is their,
Yeah.
it is their
Yeah.
normal night,
It
yes,
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, that was intentional.
yes,
Can I make a motion to adjourn at 9:35 PM?
I don't know, let's think about that.
I would second that.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
9:35, huh? Gee,
Thank you all.
oof, lot done tonight.
People, when